Battles are fought on land, but the real war is won in the sea. Forget nuclear bombs. According to many, the naval ships are the primary reason the US won. By the end of World War II, US Navy was the biggest in the world. And at the center of operations was their most decorated naval ship, USS Enterprise CV-6. With 20 battle stars to her credit, she was the hero of World War II. So, hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, let's look closely at the deadliest US Navy ship during World War II. But before moving further, subscribe to our channel and tap on the bell icon to never miss an update. Let's get started. USS Enterprise, a Yorktown-class carrier of the United States Navy. She was the seventh of name and easily the most popular. The people who saw her might refer to her as the Big E. The Japanese hate the sight of her because no other ship participated in more action against Japan than this daring aircraft carrier. She was declared sunk by the Japanese on 3 different occasions, but she made her way back from the dead every time. This inspired her nickname, the Great Ghost, aka the Galloping Ghost. She was one of only 3 American carriers commissioned before World War II to survive the war. Many regard her as one of the luckiest ships, but history books tell us her voyage wasn't always that smooth. Don't you want to hear fascinating tales of her bravery? Don't you want to know how fortune sometimes favors the brave? Let's start our tale from the very beginning. CV-6 was launched in 1936 and got commissioned in 1938. She spent the first year of her operational life in the Atlantic Fleet before transferring to the Pacific Fleets in 1939. Big E was one of the first American warships to receive a radar set. She trained extensively in warships, but was more used as an aircraft carrier. This saved her from destruction in 1941 as she was returning from delivering Marine Corps fighters to Wake Island when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The return of Enterprise after this opposition attack meant the entire crew pitched in to refuel and rearm the carrier. The Big E was back at sea within a day of her arrival and sank the submarine I-70. This was followed by lighter missions of covering actions for other ships. Forget small missions. We know you're waiting for the savage battles, and we have the intriguing details ready for you. Her first major combat mission was as part of Task Force 8 in February 1942, raiding the Marshall Islands and further capturing the Wake Islands. She endured minor damages in the process from a Japanese counterattack. This was in no way enough to stop her from escorting her sister ship, Hornet, in the Doolittle raid. The next notable adventure was the Battle of Midway. Her command was to hold Midway and inflict maximum damage on the enemy with strong attrition tactics. This was the first time Enterprise's torpedo bomber squadrons were in action, but it was disastrous, scoring no hits and suffering heavy losses. However, the dive bombers performed better, disabling Japanese carriers, Kaga and Akagi. Enterprise then joined hands with survivors in Yorktown to take down the Japanese aircraft carrier, Hiru. The icing on the cake was when Enterprise dive bombers sank the cruiser Mikuma the following day. Even though America's Yorktown and Hammam ships sank in the battle, Enterprise was undamaged and the Japanese losses were much higher. So far, so good. Doesn't this tale need a bit of drama? Her next major action was the Battle of Eastern Solomons, where, although the light carrier Ryojo was sunk, the Enterprise was the American ship that suffered the most damage. 3 direct bomb hits and 4 near misses. It killed hundreds and injured many more. Does this mean the end of CV-6? What helped her head back home? Appreciable work by the damage control parties meant Enterprise somehow found a way to power back to Hawaii and undergo necessary repairs. After a bit of healing, the Enterprise returned to sea alongside the Hornet to participate in the Battle of Santa Cruz Islands. It hit many opposition carriers and cruisers while herself undergoing intensive attack. This battle witnessed the loss of Hornet, which meant Enterprise was now the last remaining Yorktown-class carrier and the last operational American carrier. This was why the crew posted a sign on one of the decks that became inspirational to many battles after that: Enterprise versus Japan. Enterprise went into a nearby port for repair, but another attack from Japan meant Enterprise had to withdraw with repair workers still on board patching up the ship. You may think this marked the beginning of the end of the Enterprise. It's not a movie for it to keep going still. Well, Enterprise threw her squadrons into the Battle of Guadalcanal amidst undergoing repair works, and by the time all the smoke had cleared, Enterprise, to everyone's shock, had contributed to the sinking of 16 ships, including the battleship Hiei, making it the first Japanese warship lost during the war. Imagine the plight of those in the ships sunk by Enterprise. They died practically at the hands of a cripple. But the end of this battle marked the beginning of a new era for Enterprise. She underwent a much-needed repair and did some covering operations, only to undergo a full repair overhaul in the summer of 1943. This was like a transformation scene in the movies. The new look Enterprise was even deadlier. Her additions, a protective torpedo blister, more guns, new radar, and a new plane. The F-6F Hellcat changed the face of the war. This new plane was more than a match to the legendary fighter plane Zero. A torpedo blister was installed along 3/4 of her length to combat enemy air attacks and Japanese torpedoes. To top all this off, new 5-inch guns, 36 40mm and 20mm anti-aircraft guns were installed along with the updated damage control and radar equipment. Big E could now pepper the skies with a barrage of shots. To ensure accuracy, Mark 37 and Mark 54 gun directors were fitted in. One could argue this was what won the war for America. All these additions are like a scene out of the James Bond movie. Enterprise became smarter, deadlier, and the only American battleship capable of day-night operations. The Enterprise returned to action in November 1943. She launched night flights and conducted night bombing attacks with her torpedo bombers as she operated off the Marshall Islands, followed by covering attack missions against numerous enemy-held islands, including Saipan, Palau, and Guam. She played her part in the Philippine Sea and Leyte Gulf battles, followed by a tour to various Japanese bases as the only American carrier capable of nighttime operations. This includes attacks on Japanese home islands and a role in the two Iwo Jima battle and the Okinawa invasion. During this quest, Enterprise was damaged by a kamikaze that forced her to retreat for repairs. While she was gearing up for a comeback, the war ended, and she was now caught into action for Operation Magic Carpet, taking troops back from both the Pacific and European theaters. On her visit to Southampton, she received a British Admiralty pennant on account of her fame as a war hero. The ship was soon deemed surplus to requirements and decommissioned in 1947. The initial plan was for the state of New York to preserve her as a memorial, but this and other preservation attempts failed due to the lack of funds, and the U.S. Navy's most decorated warship was unfortunately scrapped in 1958. The legacy of the ship lived on. Immediately after CV-6 went to the scrapyard, the CVN-65, the world's first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, became the new Enterprise. Thus, we've come to the end of today's video. Did the valor of Enterprise CV-6 inspire you? What's your favorite adventure of the Enterprise? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you had a good time watching this video, please hit the thumbs up button and share it with your friends and kin. We'll be back with more exciting content.